You may be asking yourself the question, which is better, Xero or QuickBooks? Well, that's a great question. And over the next few minutes, it's a question that I'll endeavour to answer for you. I'm David from Krystal Accounting, and in this video, I'm joined by our accounting software champion, Sami, and in which we'll highlight some of the main differences between the two pieces of software so that you can decide which is the best software for you.
First of all, how does the overall user experience compare?
So, well, what I base the user experience off is the free screens, which I believe business owners use most, spend most of the time in. So
Okay.
the ones that I believe that to be are the dashboard of experience, banking, and also the invoicing screens. So I'll show you through Xero first. So in Xero, as you can see on the screen, this is the dashboard. So as you can see, you've got your banks down the left hand side, which is quite clear. Everything down the left is your banking stuff, and then on the right hand side, you've got you can add accounts to watch and basically monitor, and you've also got your invoicing, so your bills and your sales invoices, to which you can see obviously what's outstanding now, what's overdue, and they're quite interactive. So if you click in, yeah, you can see what's due in the next week, for example.
Okay, that's quite helpful if you're really busy.
Yes, so it's quite a quick way to navigate around and find the core information. You can also do the same with the bills. From the dashboard, you can also see there's a little plus sign here, which just gives you a quick way of basically inserting an invoice or a bill into the software. There's also other stuff, but the main things that business owners do is I would say mainly sales invoicing from here. So next, we'll go on to the bank, and in Xero, once it loads. Yeah, so as you can see, it's quite nice. Down the left hand side, you've got everything, all the transactions that you need to reconcile, so everything that needs to be done. And then down the right hand side is how you treat them transactions. So I find it quite nice and clean, the fact that it's got two columns and they're quite separate, and it's quite slick and easy to read. So yeah, that's the banking. And then if we go to invoicing, when we go there, it's just loading. As you can see, in Xero, there's a new invoicing screen, and it's quite nice. It's just got the boxes that you need, so there's no stuff there that doesn't actually necessarily need to be filled in really, as such. So yeah, it's quite quick and easy to fill in these boxes and then ultimately create an invoice in a matter of 30 seconds.
And these screens, are the invoices reasonably customizable? You know, can you put logos on and that sort of thing? Is that fairly easy to do?
Yeah. So there's a sales invoicing template which is in the back end in the settings. So I won't show you that now, but yeah, that is quite customizable, should I say. You can add your logo, for example. You can add payment terms at the bottom and notes, for example. So yeah, it's quite good. You can set up for default due dates, so say 30 days from the date of the invoice, for example. So it's quite customizable, and it does save time and make it look quite neat when you're sending it out to customers. So yeah, that is possible. Okay,
so how does Xero compare in terms of the user experience to QuickBooks then?
Okay, so all right, we'll go on to QuickBooks now. So as you can see in QuickBooks, they starting with the dashboard as we did with Xero, they almost have like a dual dashboard in here, which is a little bit different to Xero. But the first screen of the dashboard is effectively the shortcut screen. So it's like the plus button at the top of Xero, where you can add in your invoices and your bills and stuff. It's just a separate screen for that. You've also got your bank accounts to the right hand side, but I mean that it doesn't show too much there, to be quite honest. So if we go into the second screen of the dashboard, once it loads, you can see it's similar to Xero. There's there's some visual stuff, although I do think Xero has more graphs and more, you can see trends a little bit better with a Xero graphs on the dashboard. But you can, there is quick access to your profit and loss, for example, your expenses, which are also interactive, so you can go in and see what makes up them numbers. Yeah, and then obviously you've got your bank accounts again, so you could click in there and it's quick access. But then you've also got this, which is like trends of the sales over the past 30 days, and obviously you've got quick access to your invoices like in Xero. So that's the dashboard. They are quite similar. I just find Xero is a little bit cleaner and less. Well, I find it easier to navigate around because with QuickBooks, you've got two screens and you're almost thinking which one should I be in, whereas in Xero, it's all in front of you and you can go. It's easier to get around, I find. So next, moving on to the banking, where business owners spend a chunk of the time. So in contrast to Xero, I find the banking in QuickBooks to be a little bit more cluttered. So as we had in Xero, there was a left column and a right column. In QuickBooks, it's almost like a table, and I find it a little bit more confusing because it some of the detail just gets lost because of how much there is going on. Really, I find it a little bit less neat and clean, to be quite honest with you. Yeah, so that's the banking.
Okay.
As I say, they're relatively similar. It's just the way the information is displayed, really.
Okay.
And then lastly, going on to the invoicing. So there's a similar button to the plus in Xero where you come here and you can just quickly go to create an invoice. So as you can see, this is how you would create an invoice in QuickBooks. So compared to Xero, where there was a small number of boxes, I think there's a few more here in QuickBooks that don't necessarily need to be filled in, which I've found from experience, some business owners, when they're first getting used to the software and setting up and they've not had much experience with it, can get a little bit confused because there's quite a bit more going on, and that sometimes leads to some mistakes or filling in the wrong boxes.
And presumably that's information that doesn't really need to be, it's not really important to go on an invoice. It's just the functionality is there, but it's sort of a bit of a red herring.
Yes, as I said, it doesn't need to be there, and the only thing it really does is distract them. It doesn't really add much to them to the invoice, as you mentioned.
Which piece of software has better reporting functionality?
So, well, in short, both pieces of software have very good reporting features, which are useful to most business owners. So what I'll do is first I'll show you around Xero. I think that's a good starting point. So as you can see, we're in the report screen in Xero. So at the top, you should be able to see there's some favorites. So what that is effectively you can, as you can see, there's a number of reports. There's hundreds of them. What you can do is you can favorite them, and effectively the reports that you want to see quite regularly, you can favorite them, and they'll be at the top, so they're quite easy to go in and grab and that sort of stuff. So what I'll do is I'll go into the profit and loss, which has been favorited here. So once it loads, right, so as you can see now, you've got quite a nice looking clean profit and loss report, which quite clearly shows you your profit at the bottom, and as you can see at the top, there's different date ranges which you can choose to see different, to see how your business is performing in different periods, for example. And you can also compare that with other periods. So compare it against other years, or if you choose months here, it will compare it against previous months, which is quite nice to spot trends and see how your business is growing, or I find it quite good for businesses that have that are quite seasonal, so you can see how you're doing over the year and how you're progressing. Yeah, so that's the profit and loss. But what I'll do now is I'll jump into QuickBooks and show you the profit and loss over there. So in QuickBooks, we'll go into the reporting screen. So it's quite similar here to Xero. So you've got your favorites at the top, which obviously you can favorite a number of reports. We've got the profit and loss favorited here, just makes it easier to grab. So in QuickBooks, the screen at the top looks a little bit different. There's a little bit more going on. However, that's not a bad thing. We'll come into that in a minute. But as you can see, the report looks quite nice as well, as well as Xero. So in QuickBooks, I find the reports a little bit easier to customize. So for example, you've got the date range like you have in Xero here. So we could do this month.
But there's a lot more options there, isn't there?
Yeah, in short, there's a lot more options. There's a bit more going on. I think when you first look into the reporting screens in QuickBooks, they look a lot more confusing. But actually, once you get used to it, it makes it a lot easier to target specific periods and yeah, I find it easier to go in and grab information a lot. I find it a lot quicker, to be honest with you. So you can do this month, and then this year we could do this year and show and display columns by. So effectively, it'll display it by the total, or you can display it in months, quarters. There's numerous different options, and then if you run the report, it's quite nice, and as you can see, it finds that information pretty much instantly, which I find a little bit easier to do in QuickBooks than Xero. So overall, I would say the profit and loss reporting is and reporting in particular really is a little bit easy in QuickBooks. However, there's one thing that you can do in Xero if we flick back, which as things stand, it's a little bit harder to do in QuickBooks. So what that is it is the effectively a bank reconciliation report. So what it allows you to do is you go into your bank, for example, and you can do a reconciliation report, which effectively allows you to make sure that what's the bank balance in Xero matches what is on the bank statement. I find that business owners quite like this report as it allows them to check that what they've got in the accounting software is bob on and all the information is correct, and they can rely on the reports, the other reports they've got really then. So as you can see, you can literally pick any bank account and you can go to any date in the past or the present day, for example, and it would tell you the balance in Xero is X, and it matches what's on the statement. Which
obviously, if there were any reconciling items at the time, then presumably they would be shown as well.
Yeah. So what it'll do,
if everything's okay.
Yeah, correct. So if there's any differences, it will tell you this is the transaction which is causing that. So you can go in and get it sorted. So it's quite nice, and it allows you to make sure that your books are, as I said before, absolutely bob on at any point in time, which is nice. In QuickBooks, it's a little bit harder to do that. I won't go into showing you that because it's more in the back end really. But you can only do that at the end of a month. So you couldn't pick, for example, a random date middle of the month here and look at it as you can in Xero. You have to go in at the end of the month and do it, and it has to be at a certain time, which I find a little bit more difficult for business owners to make sure the books are as they should be.
Is Xero or QuickBooks better for filing VAT returns?
So I think both pieces of software are, I think that they're both, well, very good for filing your VAT returns. They are good, solid pieces of software. There's a couple of differences, but what I'll do is, as we've done previously, I'll jump straight into Xero and show you. So effectively, you go into your VAT return, and this will be the screen that you were faced with. I quite like this because it's quite easy to read. You can see obviously the amount that you're either paying or reclaiming there is, well, it's shown in bold, so you can see it jumps out at you. You've got you know what what you owe to HMRC, or what they're going to be, what you're reclaiming effectively. And you can also just file your VAT return. Once you've connected it to HMRC, obviously you can finalise and submit that just at the click of a button, this blue button here. So that's the main brunt of it. It's fairly easy to do. But yeah, as I say, I'll compare that to QuickBooks now. So in QuickBooks, once you go in, you can see the screens are fairly similar. You've got your figures down the right hand side and the box numbers. So the thing with QuickBooks is it's not as obvious which is the one that you're paying. You have to look into the detail, which is obviously box 5. That's one small difference. But similar to Xero, it's really easy to file. Once you've connected it, as it says there, you can literally go ahead and press the green button at the bottom, and it's the VAT returns filed with HMRC at the click of a button within seconds, which is really good. The one advantage that I would say QuickBooks has over Xero is if we come out of here, once it loads, right, you can see if I press the down arrow here, there's an error check your return button. So if we press into there, QuickBooks effectively reviews the VAT return, and it gives you some suggestions of transactions, for example, that may be exceptions or duplicated, for example, because it does happen from time to time, not very often, but it can happen. So effectively, it gives you a few different things to bear in mind, and you can press on the buttons, and they're quite interactive. It takes you into transactions that you may want to view or review. And I find that quite good because it gives business owners that peace of mind that Xero can't quite do at the moment. That peace of mind that the VAT return is as good as it can be, as accurate, so they know they're either paying or reclaiming the right amount of VAT.
What other software and payment services can you link with QuickBooks and Xero?
So, well, the good news is that both are at the forefront of app integrations. So they're both market leaders. They've got good integrations. For example, the likes of Go Cardless to receive direct debit payments from customers, Stripe for card payments. They both integrate with PayPal and Shopify, for example, and you can also integrate Dext and HubDoc for your purchase invoicing, which our clients tend to find is a big time saver. So I would say that they're fairly even on app integrations.
Which has the better mobile app?
So both pieces of software have quite good mobile apps. You can effectively do everything you can do on the desktop versions on your phone on the go at the click of a button, which is quite nice. It allows when you're quite busy, you can do anything wherever you are. You don't need to be sat down at your computer, which I quite like. So we'll start off with looking at QuickBooks. So that's one of your typical screens. That's the look and feel that you get when you're using the QuickBooks app. So as you can see, it's quite nice. Everything's laid out quite clearly. So I'll give you a quick overview of Xero. So the look and feel of Xero is quite different, but as you can see, it's effectively just as easy to get around from what you can see there. So really, look and feel, it's personal preference, if you ask me. Both quite good, have similar features. However, there are two key differences between the mobile apps. So the first one is basically the way which you capture your purchase invoices and receipts. So if you were using Xero, you get another app which integrates, which is called HubDoc, which you can take pictures of your invoices on. However, if you were using QuickBooks, you get Receipts app, which is inside of the QuickBooks app. So I tend to find that QuickBooks is a little bit more slick, as it's all in one app. It's almost a one-stop shop. Whereas if you're using Xero, it's back and two a little bit. Another advantage of QuickBooks over Xero is you get free mileage tracking, which a lot of business owners do tend to like. Saves them having to download other apps like MileIQ, for example, and it's free, which some of them apps aren't. So overall, I would say QuickBooks just edges it on the mobile app for me.
If you need any help with your software, what support is available?
Well, for me, what I would say is first port of call, option A should always be speak to your accountant and see how they can help, because quite often they can resolve the problem quite quickly for you. However, option B is to speak directly to the software support, so either Xero or QuickBooks. So QuickBooks has a couple of options when you contact support. As you can see on the screen, you can request a callback, to which it says that they'll call you in about 5 minutes, but usually out of experience, it's been instant, which is brilliant. And then second option is you can have a chat, so it's an online chat with a support agent, which is quite nice. I tend to find that business owners like the callback because you're speaking to someone and you get the problem resolved on average quicker. With Xero, you only have one option, which is the chat, so effectively you can't ask for a callback. I find that means that it's usually a bit slower to get to the bottom of the problem. So that, on this respect, I would say the QuickBooks support is probably that little bit better.
How much does each software cost?
So Xero and QuickBooks both have 3 separate packages. Depending on your business's needs, effectively determines which package you'll need to be on. However, as you can see, for the first 6 months, you get 50% off with both. So that's Xero. The pricing for the Xero packages, and then going on to QuickBooks, they're very similar, and fundamentally the features that you get and the functionality is also very similar. So I wouldn't have thought for many business owners that this would be a deciding factor, as really that they're on par. The only advantage that QuickBooks has over Xero on pricing is if you were to need any of the add-ons, for example, payroll, CIS returns, or allowing your employees to submit expense claims, Xero does tend to come up a little bit more expensive on that department. However, I don't think that applies to all businesses, so it shouldn't really, as I mentioned before, be a deciding factor.
So there you have it, QuickBooks and Xero. I think in the end, it comes down to 2 things. Firstly, which functionality does you and your business need? And secondly, which one you prefer? The look and the feel of them is both slightly different. Everyone has slightly different preferences, what they feel comfortable with. If you had to ask our opinion, the software in both is very good. We can't fault either. But for the look and feel on its own, we have a slight preference for Xero. If you'd like a chat about accounting software over a coffee, then just give one of the Crystal Clear team a bell on 0161 410 0020, or ping us an email on wecare@crystal-clear.co.uk. And to make sure you don't miss out on any other of our great content, hit subscribe and feel free to share and like.